What's happening, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I get to announce one brand new Marvel Omnibus and one Marvel Omnibus reprint coming out in November of 2023. So let's go ahead and get started. This video is sponsored by Marvel Comics, so thank you so much to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us information about these two books coming out in November. So we are going to be talking about one brand new book and one new reprint coming out this year. Now, the reprint makes me very happy because it was in our top 20 most wanted omnibus reprints. The new omnibus I've known about for a while, and actually I've been asked on my Saturday streams if it was coming because apparently some of you all knew, and I had to keep just saying, I don't know, maybe. But it looks like we now have a date, and that is in November. So very happy that that is coming out. All right, so let's actually talk about the brand new omnibus first. And it makes sense that we are actually getting an omnibus because we do have a new movie coming out sometime. I believe now it's 2024 when it comes out. But regardless, we're going to have an omnibus to go along with that. It's a character that has been around, like I said, for a long time and premiered in Tomb of Dracula. So while this might not be the Tomb of Dracula Omni reprints that I want, it is a great start. And that is Blade, the Early Years Omnibus, coming out in November. So we have three covers to look at. Let's take a look at the standard edition cover first. So the standard edition cover is supplied by Dave Wilkins, and it's the one that's going to be available everywhere. So before we look at the other two covers, let's take a look at the content in here. So this does collect, like I mentioned, a lot of Tomb of Dracula, because that's where he made his first appearance. So it does collect Tomb of Dracula number 10, 12 through 14, number 24, 41 through 43, 45, 51, 53, and 58. Marvel Previews number 3, Fear 24, Doctor Strange 61 through 62, and 67. Material from Tomb of Dracula, so not the whole thing, 17 through 19, 21, 44, 46 through 50, 52, and Vampire Tales 8 and 9, Marvel Preview number 8, and Marvel Comics number 64. So this takes us all the way into the Marvel Comics era, or Marvel Comics Presents, rather. So we're looking at all the way up into the late 80s, early 90s, and that brings me a lot of hope for what I hope comes later. But before we even talk about that, or what that could be maybe sometime, let's take a look at the first direct market cover. Here we have the very first direct market cover, and this one, of course, is supplied by Gil Kane, and it is the very first appearance of Blade, the Vampire Slayer. So finally, in his very first omnibus that I hope of many others to come. Now, before we look at the next direct market cover, we have to talk about the creative team behind this, and that is, of course, Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan, Gil Kane, and Chris Claremont, Tony DeZuniga, just to name a few of the creators that help really flesh out this character that started in the pages of Tomb of Dracula. So this is the guy that goes around and killing vampires. What else is there to tell? Now let's take a look at the next direct market cover. I really like this one. So this one here is supplied by Gray Morrow, and it is the cover to Marvel Preview number 3. That one really speaks to me as far as Blade, the early years. Whereas the cover by like Dave Wilkins, that one reminds me of like a modern age Blade. The one by Gil Kane, that reminds me, of course, of Tomb of Dracula. But that one right there for Marvel Preview, that one really speaks to me, that Blade, the Vampire Slayer, the early years. So I hope that they see the popularity of this character and the potential for it to get more modern stuff. And I always say modern, even though it was 1990, that to me is still modern. But I love to see that era of the rise of the Midnight Suns, that era of the Night Stalkers, that era when Danny Ketch Ghost Rider was the new Ghost Rider. It was a revival era for the Marvel horror line, along with Darkhold and, yes, Spirits of Vengeance. So I hope we get some kind of omnis of that particular era one day. All right, let's talk about the next book. Now, I've already hinted at it that the next book is part of our top 20 most wanted Marvel Omnibus reprints, and you all made that happen. Marvel listened, so check another one off your list because I am talking about Hawkeye by Fraction and Aha Omnibus. So all of you that have been wanting this one and asking me where it is, well, here it finally is. Well, not physically yet, but now this is one step closer to getting it and coming out this November. Let's take a look at the main cover. So here's your standard edition cover by David Aja. This is the one that came with the original omnibus printing. And of course, David Aja being the main artist on the book, drawing about 90% of this particular omnibus. Now, let's take a look at what is collected in here. So in here, you're going to have Hawkeye, the 2012 series, 1 through 22, Hawkeye Annual number 1, and Young Avengers Presents number 6. So this is the story of Clint Barton and getting an apartment complex and fighting on a bunch of dudes that say bro. It's one of those stories that feels like it can be read on its own. I've had so many of my friends that don't normally read comics that have read this one, and they were so impressed with it. And I love stories like this that can almost fit into their own little pocket universe. Now, there is a direct market cover for the first time for this particular omnibus, so let's take a look at that. And that shows our new Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. That one drawn by Jim Chung. And that's actually from the story that's collected in that Young Avengers Presents book. So this is during the time when there were two Hawkeye running around. Not Hawk Guy. But I'm so glad that this is being reprinted. This is one that I kept being asked about. Actually, just this past Saturday, there were a couple people asking in the chat. I purposely ignored those so I could surprise you all. So I hope it is a nice surprise for the people wanting this one. And honestly, I hope it continues on to another series of Omnis. I believe it was Jeff Lemire and then eventually Kelly Thompson writing the character of Kate Bishop. So that's it. Those are your announcements. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up, which covers you're going to get, what you think about the content, and make sure you pre-order when available to pre-order. Thank you again to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.